Hello. Um, I came across an article that I saw today, and I want to go through it. It's from Haaretz, a leading newspaper in Israel. Now, I don't pretend I got good information on what goes on in Israel daily, but I don't pretend that I'm in Israel and I know exactly what's going on. So our hearts go out to every Israeli, and I again, living in the fog of war, it's obviously horrific. But there's a major hard on for Netanyahu, and I think the amount of pounding he's taking during this war is a little over the top. Anyways, I want to address this article, and I can't get it on my screen, so I have to read it from my phone. The title of the article is Analysis. Thanks to Netanyahu, the ICC's equivalence between Israel and Hamas will go global. That's the title. Here's the article. It is written by Anshel Pfeffer, May 20th, 2024. And the article goes, quote, "The Prime Minister will present himself as a martyr for Israel in the face of the ICC prosecutor's application to arrest him for war crimes. But Netanyahu has only himself to blame. Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant will never go on trial at the International Criminal Court, the ICC, in The Hague. Even assuming the pre-trial chamber accepts the request for arrest warrants submitted Monday by ICC prosecutor Karim Khan for war crimes, crimes against humanity. Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute that provides the court with its jurisdictional powers. As long as they don't travel to a country that is a signatory, they are safe from arrest. But Khan's statement is a massive blow both to them personally and to Israel as a country. Whether or not this was his intention, he has created a legal and moral equivalence between the Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister with Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Daif, and Ismail Haniyeh, against whom he has also requested arrest warrants. If anything could have further damaged Israel's international standing and the legitimacy of its war against Hamas in Gaza, this is it." I'll stop right there. That's end quote. I have no idea why Anshel wrote those few paragraphs. I don't care who is leading Israel right now. Anshel's best friend is his dad, whomever, is leading the country right now. The Israelis are going to get thrown under the bus no matter what the fuck they do. Why would you write an article like this? Of course it's going to be slanted. You think because this Netanyahu is the president of Israel that they're going to blame because of him? Of course not. They're going to blame Israel. I don't care who was president. It's just a strange article to me. I don't care if you like Netanyahu or you hate the guy. That is irrelevant to the fucking ICC. They don't care. Israel's going to get tagged no matter what. Did they not know this in Israel, or at least this guy and his friends? Just surprising for me. Okay, start up again. Quote: "There will be many, including fierce critics of Netanyahu and his government, who will see an equivalence between the perpetrators of the October 7th massacre, chiefs of a terror organization that has used and exploited its own civilians in Gaza to shield them and their fighters, and the democratically elected leaders of the country that was attacked as abhorrent and a moral travesty." End quote. Starting October 8th, okay, Hamas has been in the media kicking Israel's ass, but I just don't know why you would write something like this. A moral travesty? What would your response have been after October 7th? Quote: "Israeli legal officials, who are by no means card-carrying supporters of the government they serve, are convinced that if the case was to be heard before impartial judges, Israel could refute the allegations. But since there's no prospect of that case ever going forward, it is immaterial. It is immaterial. You are correct on that. You should have stopped it right there. You're done. They don't give a shit. They're going to go after Israel no matter what. They're bullies, to these Palestinians who, need the world to help them, get over the hump. No, they're... Quote, it is important to, however, to read Khan's lengthy statement. It starts with the allegations against Sinwar, Diaf, and Hania, going into detail regarding the locations of October 7th killings, the taking of hostages, the rape, and sexual assault. Khan speaks of his own feelings upon visiting the sites of unconscionable crimes and of how, when speaking with survivors, I heard how the love within a family, the deepest bonds between a parent and a child, were contorted to inflict unfathomable pain through calculated cruelty and extreme callousness. End quote. So what the fuck does that have to do with Israel, responding? Oh my gosh. Quote, the next section of his statement regarding the allegations against Israel is different in a number of key areas. Here comes the horse shit. First, while the three Hamas targets represent both its political and military leadership, just Netanyahu and Gallant are mentioned in Israel's case. There was concern in Israel that Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Herzl Halevi, and perhaps other senior generals would also be named, but so far at least only the two Israeli politicians have. And end quote. And you think if it's somebody else was president of Israel right now, anybody else, that they wouldn't have named them? You're joking. I mean, you have to be fucking joking. I mean, their world and the international, the IJC, whatever it is, are discussing Israel and genocide in their fucking courts right now. Israel and genocide. These are the same people. I did a thing on Israel and genocide, by the way. I mean, give me a break. Quote, this is significant because while the list of potential war crimes for which Netanyahu and Gallant could be charged includes willful killing and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, much of the emphasis and detail is in regard to Israel's policy on humanitarian aid to Gaza during the war. How in the fuck do you write this article? You know more than Israelis know, Palestinians know, Hamas knows the amount of innocent people that they are using as human shields. And even, I mean, Israel has done everything humanly possible, more than anyone in any war ever, to just identify the best they could to kill Hamas, okay? But they're intertwined between the civilians. What on earth would you expect Israel to do? If Israel has the intention of going in and removing Hamas, you tell me a better way that they should have done it. Anybody. Fucking joke. Anything coming from the UN or any of these bullshit or the Hague, Israel is being on trial right now for genocide. And you fucking agree with that? Quote, there are no specific details regarding Israel's military attacks, and Khan emphasized that Israel, like all states, has a right to take action to defend its population. However, he repeatedly mentions Israel's alleged use of starvation as a method of war. The ultimate responsibility for this, in his mind, is that of the politicians, not the generals. That's your country, Israel. Have you heard, everyone's in the military or has, certainly has a family member, of course, and have you heard any of them talk about intentionally starving Palestinians? I'd like to know that. I mean, I know it's bullshit, but maybe I'm wrong on this one. I don't know. Intentionally starving. Quote, Israeli officials have argued and will continue to argue that from the very start of the war, they were facilitating the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. But even though that is true, for months there were severe restrictions on these supplies, and in public, ministers of Netanyahu's government, including Gallant himself early on, were talking of a siege on Gaza and opposing the ideas of any supplies going in. That's just got to be fucking bullshit. Quote, this may have been more a matter of rhetoric than policy. Really? But those statements were made to a receptive public, and Netanyahu did nothing to curb or counter such talk. Okay. So it was just talk. Quote, Israel's battle strategy in Gaza did not include any detailed plans to keep the civilian population supplied with the bare essentials, even though some senior officers warned early on that such plans were necessary. Even if there was no policy of intentional starvation, the lack of serious preparation to prevent such an eventuality, coupled with the belligerent talk from Israeli politicians, has left Israel vulnerable to these accusations. The government has only itself to blame. End quote. Okay. So, 1,200 people were just murdered, okay? 260 were just taken hostage. And Hamas is identified as the government, and they have weapons, so, they're legitimate military, right? I mean, who could not argue that? And so Israel has to, they're telling the public that what they're going to do is eliminate Hamas, okay? And I just find it mind-boggling that you have people. Can you imagine all the wars that the U.S. has been in and having to fucking tell them, hey, there's Al-Qaeda, but there's also civilians there, so we're not going to touch them. Or the Taliban, hey, there's civilians. We're not going to touch those guys. Make sure everything gets to them, all the food and all the trucks get to them before we bomb and kill these motherfuckers. And this article is just ridiculous. These fucking ICC idiots. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Quote, Netanyahu will now try to use the ICC prosecutor's request for an arrest warrant to present himself as a martyr suffering on Israel's behalf. Really? That's what he's going to do. That may well work for a short while, and we may even see his polling numbers rise as a result. Who gives a dick shit about his fucking polling numbers? You're in a war. But this cannot be allowed to obscure what has happened. Israel embarked on a justified war in the aftermath of October 7th, a war that at first had broad international support for a few days. But the mismanagement of this war, the callousness and craven stupidity of this government has transformed Israel into a global pariah that in the eyes of the world is on the same level as Hamas. This is as much on Netanyahu as on Karim Khan. End quote. This is fucking ridiculous. Is that how all the Israelis think? I mean, these comments can be certainly used after victory, but why? You're in a war. I don't know. I don't really know what to say. I mean, this is ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly ridiculous that you would write that article. I mean, and you're shocked that the ICC is bringing up Netanyahu. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm extremely disappointed, obviously, in that article. The guy who wrote that and anybody that agrees with that, right now, today's date, it's shocking to me. So, I hope the best for the Israelis. But if you don't think you're going to be taking outside shit, for being the big bad bullies that you are, as the world claims you to be, yeah, it isn't making a difference who's on top. They're going to get thrown under the bus anyways. I wish you all well in Israel. Love you guys, and I'm trying to do what I can. But I mean, dumbass articles like that ain't gonna help. Anyways, thanks.